Comedian, Tahoe golfer, and a guy that was born and raised in Queens, New York, Ray Romano, good enough to join us. Of course, 86 Mets. Where were you when Jesse Roscoe struck out Marty Barrett, and how did you celebrate?
Well, first of all, let me just say, I grew up a Yankee fan, but as a New Yorker, of course, I was way into the Mets also. And the Yankees had won many championships by then. I was at my wife-to-be's house, I remember. We were watching it. I was let's see, that was 86. I got married in, I hope I get this right. I got married in 87. I'm pretty sure I got married in 87. And her brother was a diehard also. So I was in the house, and we just went nuts. But I say I grew up a Yankee fan, but my father took me to the 69 Met game when they clinched the division. When the Mets clinched the division in 69, I ran on the field. I was 12 years old. Believe it or not, I'm that old. Ugh. But it's all good.
Oh, now wait a second. So did you take any dirt with you? Maybe some grass?
Yeah, we did. They were allowing it. In 69, they were allowed. Here's another little story I forgot. During the 86 run by the Mets, I was delivering futons in Manhattan. And the night before Ron Darling pitched, we delivered to Ron Darling. I delivered to his apartment, and I remember he gave us a $15 tip, and that was in 86. That's a good man.
Hey, Ray, look, I'm baffled over here because you just mentioned the Mets and the Yankees. How in the world can you be a Mets fan and a Yankee fan at the same time? Isn't there conflict in your soul?
I'm being honest with you. I was a Yankee fan first. I grew up. I kind of did it weird because I was a Yankee. I was a Yankee fan from Queens. In Queens, you're usually a Mets-Jets fan, but I was a Yankees-Jets fan. But I didn't dislike the Mets. It wasn't. I didn't have that rivalry, where if you were a Yankee fan, you hated the Mets fan. That's not how it goes. For me. And now that I live in LA, I root for everything New York, because I got to be loyal to my hometown. And I am a Jet fan, so. It kind of works out that I was a Yankee fan because at least somebody was winning. But the Jets are going to win.
Got it. Sam Darnold will get them there 1 decade, I promise that. Ray, of course, we know you best
it's looking
from everybody
promising.
Loves Raymond. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So on the show, you played a sports writer, and some real sports writers were critical, saying we didn't see enough of your profession during the show. So did they still get in your face about that today?
No, I see that. You see it every now and then. You see an article about it. But listen, the show was about the family. We made him a sports writer because we were trying to base it on my real life. In my real life, I had the parents who lived close by. I had the brother who was a police officer. I had the twins. I had a wife who did not like me. So it was all based on real life. And at that time, I wasn't going to portray a stand-up comedian because Seinfeld was already out there. So we chose the next closest thing where it would be something creative and something that would get me out of the house. And I was a sports fan, so we made it a sports writer. But I've heard that gripe before, that we didn't see enough of it. But, you got to write what you know. And all I knew about was having a dysfunctional family.
Ray, look, one of my kids' favorite movies, heck, one of my favorite movies is Ice Age, and you played Manny on Ice Age. Well, MLB's commish, his name is Rob Manfred, and Manny's short for Manfred. What changes or what type of rulings would Manny the Mammoth have if he were commissioner of baseball?
Well, I'm going to give you some credit. That I've never heard that question before. Oh my goodness! If Manny was the commissioner of baseball, gosh, I guess he'd say. I don't know. I guess he'd say let's play in all weather because he's from the Ice Age, so he doesn't want it to get iced out.
Hey, so, Ray, you did get a chance to throw out a first pitch to Mike Piazza, and you have been performing stand-up for years and years and decades, so you're in front of crowds. How nervous were you that day? Because it can be pretty nerve-wracking.
Well, do you know, have you seen any footage of the pitch? Because I threw a one-hopper. My whole thing was, I didn't get to warm up. You know, sometimes back in the dugout or wherever they have a little area where you can throw one or two. And listen, I'm not the greatest athlete, but I played enough softball. I can throw a pitch from the mound. And my whole thought was, don't throw it over his head. Don't throw it into the stands. And of course, I short hop it. But Piazza, of course, being the great catcher, caught it. So if you were sitting behind him, you may not have seen that it was a short hop. But everybody on TV knew. It was a little sad. It was a little humbling, but it was still fun. It was still exciting to get out there.
And I imagine it was pretty exciting for you in 1999. You actually had several of the '69 Mets from the Amazing Mets make cameos on your show. How thrilling was that for you?
Yes. Yeah, it was awesome. We had everybody really, like, I think Seaver was the only one we couldn't get. But, you know, we had Grody, Harrelson, Agee, Jones, and it was all, the dog on our show was named Shamsky, after Art Shamsky. I mean, listen, I'm pretty lucky that even being here, where I am right now, you know, telling jokes and these stupid jokes I tell gets me to have this life where I get to meet these heroes of mine. I mean, I remember Bobby Mercer. You know, like I said, I grew up a Yankee fan, so I was a little bit too young to get into Mickey Mantle, but I was still a big fan of Mickey Mantle. But he was on his way out, and then Mercer came, and Mercer was the new Mantle for us, and I was such a Bobby Mercer fan, and I was at. So now, cut to years later, after my TV show, I'm at one of these tournaments, and a woman tapped me on the shoulder and said, "My husband wants to know if he can say hello to you." I go, "Yeah, sure." I thought it was just a fan. And I go, "Yeah, where is he?" She goes, "There. His name's Bobby Mercer." And I'm like, "Yeah, I think he can say hello to me." Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome.
That's awesome. All right, we know you're just a couple minutes from your tee time at Tahoe, so we got 1 minute left, and these are rapid fire questions.
Yes.
We're just going to plow through them. Ray, first one.
I'm not good at these.
The actor you were most. Oh, you'll do great. The actor you were most nervous to work with.
Wow, probably De Niro, but not for good reason, because he's the nicest guy in the world. But he's Robert De Niro, and all I can think of is, you looking at me? Are you talking to me? You know, so I was nervous to work with him, but it ended up being lovely. It ended up being fine.
That's great. All right, celebrity that has taken the most money from you on the golf course.
Maybe Kevin James. When Kevin James used to play, he doesn't play much anymore. You know, Kevin James was a fullback in college. So this guy is an athlete. I'm not going to say he doesn't look like an athlete, but he is an athlete. And he could pound the hell out of the ball. And we had a big competition all the time. So yeah, he has a bowling alley in his house right now. I paid for that bowling alley.
Speaking of, who is the real king of Queens?
Well, he's not from Queens. That was the ironic part. I lived in Queens, and my show took place. My family lived in Long Island. He was from Long Island, and his show was the King of Queens. So I'm the King of Queens, and Pete Davidson's the King of Staten Island, the movie that just came out. I'm not the King of Queens. I'm from Queens. That's all.
Nice. Who texts you back the quickest? De Niro, Pacino, or Pesci?
Believe it or not, I've never texted De Niro or Pacino, but I have texted Pesci because he belongs to my golf course, and I presented at the Academy Awards this year, and I did a Joe Pesci line, and I wanted to run it by him. So, you know, you want to get permission from Joe. So I ran it by him, and he texted me back. Yeah. Pacino, can I tell you a little quick Pacino story? Do we have time?
Please.
because
Yes.
I wasn't I was intimidated to work with any of those guys. But Pacino was very friendly, and during the movie of The Irishman, he gave me my favorite. It was indirect. It wasn't. He gave me an insult without even trying. He wasn't trying to. What I had to do in that movie is sometimes I had to wear a fat suit. I had to wear a fat suit because they aged me up a little, so I had to put on a fat suit when I was like in my 80s, 70s. And sometimes you had it on, and sometimes you didn't have it on. And it was one scene we were doing after lunch, and we were sitting there, and Al Pacino got nervous because we were ready to start the scene, and he looked at me and he said, "Oh, what scene are we doing, Ray? I didn't know you were wearing the fat suit." I said, "I'm not, Al." I guess I had a little. I was bloating. I guess I was bloating. But my New Year's resolution. He made up my New Year's resolution at that point was to lose a couple pounds.
Man.
That's beautiful. And on that, we drop the mic.
They were
Ray
great.
Romano, thanks so much for the time. Hit him straight up in Tahoe and go have fun this weekend.
Go low, go low.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.